Good morning, guys. Welcome to week 3. So this week you're going to continue learning how to write equations for linear functions, and then we're going to talk about how to write composite functions. So a composite function is just when you have two different functions and then you take the output of one function and you make it the input of the second function. That creates a new function, which we call the composite function. So in this week's lesson, you just want to make sure that you're really careful with your algebra. Make sure you're paying attention to your signs and that you are paying attention to order of operations when you're simplifying your expressions. The other thing that I want to point out is almost all of you guys submitted your first written assignment in Blackboard, and you did a really beautiful job showing your work and interpreting the values that you calculated for each question. But there were a lot of students who also did not interpret their results. So just make sure that for all of your homework assignments, and especially as you prepare for your first test, you want to make sure that you answer all parts of the question. So if it says calculate the average rate of change and then explain the meaning, make sure that you explain what it means. So speaking of average rate of change, also a good handful of you guys were not able to write down the correct unit of measure for the rate of change. So for this assignment, we're talking about a grapefruit being tossed in the air. And so it's going to travel over time. And we can measure the height of the grapefruit over time. So when a grapefruit gets tossed up in the air, when it is traveling, right? So when it's moving up in the air, so when it's being tossed up, its rate of change is going to be a positive value. And then as the grapefruit starts to fall back towards the ground, the rate of change is going to decrease. And so the sign is going to be negative. So when we're interpreting the average rate of change for a grapefruit that's being tossed in the air, it represents its speed. And so make sure you understand how to interpret that. Also, the unit of measure for any rate of change is always some unit per another unit. So for question C, you want to make sure that you include the unit when you calculate the average rate of change over 1 and 3 seconds. The grapefruit is traveling at a rate of 28, and that's feet per second. So that tells us that the grapefruit is being tossed up in the air because the rate of change is positive, and that 28 feet per second tells us how fast it's traveling. Okay, guys, please keep emailing me if you have any questions, and I will send out some more messages throughout the week. Bye, guys.